Amy, I'll help you.
Thanks, Sandy. These are tasters. I'll go put this by the sink.
Amy, put the full cases on the bottom over there.
Okay, we'll go.
And then this will be re-inventoried by an employee of the winery. And this is how it should look when it's done, away from the door, so other people can come in and unload. When you return from the festival, obviously you're going to put these back where you found them in the wine cellar. Now we're at Lakeland Winery, but normally this would be done at the festival before you leave. We're doing inventory of the taster bottles. You'll notice there's 1 Traminer Riesling, 2 Dragon Fruit, 2 Black Cherry, now these partial and empties, and so on. And then you write on the paper 2 Merlots, 1 Chardonnay, 2 Traminer Riesling, 2 Concord, and so on. When we return from the festival event, we take our partials and we combine them with what's in the refrigerator. For example, we have these partials that are going to be combined with what we brought back. You have to taste them both to be sure they're both okay before you combine them. Now in the refrigerator, the ones with these tops are only for the sweet wines. There are other tops for the drier wines. The red wines, like this. There are other tops like this that we use for the dry white wines. The dry red wines go in the front of the winery and get combined with those wines. The dry red wines don't go in the refrigerator. When they're combined, some are going to be full of wine and they have to be corked. The corked ones go on the top shelf and the partial ones go on the bottom shelf. This is an example of combining the dry red wines in the front. We have what we brought back, and we have what we found in the front of the winery. We're going to taste this to make sure it's good enough to combine. That's not bad. Let's combine them. Make sure you're tasting both of these to make sure they can be combined. Now, because this is a dry red wine, we need one of these. And keep doing it so that when it comes off, it sounds like this. If you come back with a dry red wine that's more than half full, you want to put it into a split bottle. Like this, and cork the split bottle so that the whole bottle doesn't get stale. Now we'll cork this bottle and we'll leave this bottle here for tasting. Now it's important for this bottle to have a date on it so that people know how old it is. After you combine the wines, you have to rinse the empty bottles. Like this. And put them over here. 2 rinses. And then you take these, rinse them off, put them in here, make sure this is facing down. We're going to combine 2 pomegranates and cork the full one. And then put this in the refrigerator on the top shelf. Now this white cloth that covered this bin has to be rinsed out completely so it can be hung up to dry. This should be done at the festival. But if it's too cold outside and your hands are too cold to do it, you can bring it back to the winery and wring it out. After you've wrung out your tablecloth as much as possible, you want to drape it out to dry. Don't drape it out over these airlocks. Drape it out over a couple drums like this. This sheet should be done at the festival, but it's being done after the fact at the winery now. Remember, I showed you how to count the tasting bottles. You do inventory yourself and it's checked by us of the remaining bottles. And then from using this formula, this column minus these two columns equals how many bottles were sold. The price of the bottle, this times this equals the total cost. You add this up, and then you add the money that you make. You brought $60, so the cash that you made is minus take out the $60 when you add up how much cash is in your pocket. That's $316 was made. You use a credit card to determine how much credit you made, $336. Add these two columns and it equals $652 in sales. There were no expenses. Now cash returned is very obvious. You count the money in your pocket. $376, and that's the amount that should be here when I count it. Now to calculate the time reimbursement, or the amount of money that you'll make from doing this show, we have an hour that it took to pick up, 3 hours there and back to the driving to the event, 4 hours total for the festival. It took an hour to set up the festival and an hour to take down the festival. When you got back to the winery, it took 40 minutes to unload and clean up. You calculate the total miles from Google. It's 160.6 miles times, you get reimbursed 25 cents a mile, so you make $40.15. The tolls on the thruway were $6.90. Add all these up, and this is what I'm going to be paying you by check in probably a couple days after the event. When you're at your event, this one happened to be in Rochester, you're going to be talking a lot to your customers about what liquor stores they attend. This sheet came with the packet. It shows that we're selling our wine at this liquor store. And down here, we see that our employee found out that these other liquor stores are where the customers shop that we will want to contact. Also in your packet is an email sign-up. We have one email, and we're going to be sending a monthly newsletter to them to remind them of different places that we're going to be in New York State so that our groupies can follow us around. Someone said there should be $376 cash returned. Let's find out. 100, 200, 300. Now, these bills should all be facing up. And the ones should be on top, and then the 5s, and then the 10s, and the 20s, and 50s, and 100s. And it does equal $376. Make sure you put the money away with the inventory sheet in the safe. And lock it. At the festival, you did the inventory of the bottles and the money, and when you came back, you cleaned and rinsed the bottles, and you combined some of the wines in the refrigerator, and you corked them. And you put the corked bottles back in the refrigerator on the top shelf, and you put the partial bottles in the bottom shelf of the refrigerator. And you wrung out that tablecloth and hung it up to dry. And you put everything away in the wine cellar where you found it. and you brought your cases back and you stacked it up for the heavy cases on the bottom and the lighter cases on top. And that's it, folks.